Something I've watched on the news has really annoyed me, so I just need to talk about it. But apparently, the people that were at the hotel have been arrested and are charged with manslaughter. And I just, gosh, I hate humans. I really do. You know, someone's taken drugs and has got into a really, really bad state. And okay, they might be seen as being negligent for leaving him in a room where he might jump out the balcony, but they didn't want him to do that. They didn't expect him to do that. They could obviously see that the room had been trashed, but at the same time, you have to put yourself in their position. What else are they going to do? He's causing a problem in the lobby. He's obviously trashed the bedroom, but is he going to trash the lobby as well? And okay, the people who sold him drugs they're probably the ones that are most, accountable for this, because they're the ones who sold him these drugs that are obviously bad because he's gone haywire. But to blame it on them, like, what are they going to get? Are you going to put them in prison for like years because of something that it wasn't their fault? If you've got someone who's on drugs, acting recklessly, you're out of control, you don't really know what to do. I understand that it's not like leaving him alone in that state isn't a good, but they're not his mother, they're not his parents, they're not his babysitter. They are people in a hotel room that have no clue that he's about to jump out of a balcony. They might have a suspect. Maybe they could have locked the balcony door or something, but I guess I would rather people see this as something you can learn from. If someone like this takes drugs and finds himself thinking that the jumping off the balcony is something that they can do, why? Because they're on drugs. You can't go and blame. Okay, maybe they should take a tiny bit of responsibility because they should have perhaps locked the door or something, but what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? I think firing them is one thing, and that's probably a very fair thing, but are you going to seriously put them in prison when it wasn't the people, the staff members? They weren't the ones that did this. They weren't the ones who wanted him to trash the room. They weren't the ones who this guy has a history of depression and I've done a little bit of research into Liam Payne, and that there are interviews where he said that he's surprised that he's still alive because he's gone through a lot of this sort of drug taking and not being very happy and not being very satisfied. And so, if you think about all the other times where this could have happened, what are you going to say, that all those people don't deserve anything because he didn't die, whereas on this occasion he did die, and now you're going to put the people that put him in this bedroom, are you going to accuse them of I don't know. If you want to charge them with manslaughter, then I guess that's something maybe that they did deserve. But are you going to what are you going to do with that title? Are you going to actually put them in prison for something that it wasn't their choice, it wasn't their intention, that they didn't know that this would happen? I guess there was always a possibility that this was happening. But if you've got someone who's on drugs, you won't think that they are going to do that. You would think that there's a possibility that they might do that, but you might not. They didn't even speak the language. This was in, I don't know where this was, but it was somewhere where they didn't even speak English mostly or something. And I don't know. I think to charge the people who gave him the drugs, I mean, were they actually the real drugs that he was wanting to take, or were they something a lot stronger? Were they, I think there might be more of a case with the people selling the drugs, but if you're working at a hotel and you're working really hard to do a good job, and then you've got this someone who's at your hotel who's causing a problem, who's trashed the room, you would feel a slight want to help them. Why? Because they're disturbing other, they're preventing you from working. They're acting not in a right way, but you don't think that putting them in a bedroom is going to kill them, and therefore to think that you might end up putting them in prison for a year over this. I just think that there's so many people that could have been in this exact same situation, and just because there weren't other people in this exact same situation, what, you're going to just blame the three people that were in this situation? I think that's really wrong. If you want to sell the drug, if you want to put the drug dealers in prison, the ones that sell them the drugs, then fine. I feel like they shouldn't be doing that, and that's. But if someone is on drugs and you don't know what to do, I think 80% of staff members who work in a hotel would put them in the bedroom, and okay, someone might think let's lock the balcony door, but I don't know, if you've got someone who's wanting or saying I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I just feel like you're in a situation where you don't know. I don't know what they were saying or whatever, but I can understand it being a very difficult situation. You don't know what to do, and I don't know what he was saying, and I don't know if he was feeling depressed or if, I heard he was on the computer and he was getting very angry and depressed over something. I don't know what, but I just think if someone's going to go to, if someone who's not the drug dealers are going to go to prison, I just think that's just highly unfair. Because someone's lost their life, and now you're going to try and imprison a bunch of other people. So someone's lost their life and ruined their life, and now you're going to ruin other people's lives for what, their mistake. I feel like, from what I've heard, I feel like Liam has to take a huge part of the mistake for taking. I don't know what it was, but if you want to put the drug dealers in prison, then I feel like that could be correct, because I don't know what he was taking or whatever. There might be enough evidence to put them in prison, but the hotel staff, I mean, all they were doing was doing a job, and it's not their right or duty to babysit people who have taken drugs. Any hotel staff could find themselves in this situation where someone's taken drugs and they've just taken them back to their room and just assumed that everything will be fine when it's not. I think that the number of people, if you ask how many hotel staff have found someone who they think is on drugs and is trashing the place, how many of them have just chosen to leave the hotel leave the person in a room. I think that there must be such a high number, and so to just think that some people are going to be put in prison for just putting him in a room and walking away. If someone's acting aggressive, you don't feel this strong need to protect them and stuff, and they didn't know that would happen, and I don't know, but it's horrible to think that people's lives, someone could make some shitty mistake where they're on drugs and stop caring about everyone else, and then they can actually go off and ruin a bunch of people's lives on manslaughter, because for some reason humans seem to think that these other people need to take responsibility for that person. They're not responsible for that person. I think if you might take some responsibility if you're like a police officer and you've got someone locked up in a cell. I think in those cases you might have responsibility for someone, but this is not a police cell. This is not a hospital. This was not they weren't there to look after him. They were there to just make sure he wasn't disturbing the other guests, and they did their job, and then to think that they're going to be put in prison over that, I just